Frank Sinatra. The voice, the swagger, the legend. But what was he really like? Hear it straight from lifelong friends, actors, comics, icons, who saw the man behind the myth. Their stories will surprise you, especially the last one. Even stars have off nights. Tom Dreesen remembers the moment he blanked on lyrics mid-song, convinced his career was toast, until an unknown man from the audience stepped up and yelled 4 words.
We were all wondering, when is he going to lay it down? When is he going to quit? Crowds loved him. They couldn't get enough of him. They were really coming to say goodbye to him. And every city we went to, they were coming to say goodbye. And one night, he went out, he did 3 songs, he was rolling. He got to the 4th song, and he totally blanked on the lyrics. The orchestra was down in the pit, and they kept playing, not knowing that he was lost. And he started whispering into the microphone, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." When I saw that happen, I went, "Oh, this is it." He's whispering to the orchestra, and they started to wind their instruments down to an eerie silence in this huge arena. "I'm so sorry." By that time, I was stage left, and I thought, okay, this is it. He's going to come off stage, and I'm going to say, "Let's go home, Mr. S. It's been a great career, but it's time to go home." He turned around. It was dead silence. He had tears in his eyes, and he looked like he was going to come and lay the microphone down. And a guy way up on top of the audience stood up by himself, and he hollered out, "That's all right, Frank. It's all right. We love you." And he started to applaud. And the guy next to him started applauding. And a couple, and pretty soon, hundreds of people started applauding, then thousands, and pretty soon the whole arena was cheering. He got to the edge of the stage, and I thought he was going to go home, and he turned around, and he went back to center stage, and they wouldn't stop cheering. And finally, they calmed down, and he went into the next number, which was Mac the Knife. And he absolutely drilled that song. He hit every nuance and every lyric. He was like he was 19 years old again. When he finished that song, the people wouldn't stop cheering. And he was ready to go into the next number when he quieted him down, and he started to sing, and he stopped, and he pointed up to the guy, and he said, "I love you too, pal." And he sang for 2 years after that. 2 years. That guy doesn't know that fan brought him from the ashes that night.
But beneath his tough image, an old Don Rickles revealed a tenderness that shocked everyone.
In other words, I had a relationship with him. If we went to dinner and I was eating, he said, I said, "Frank, I'm talking." And he would stop and fall on the floor. Frank believed he was a tough guy. But he was. He was a boxer when he was a kid. But he always used to say when somebody bothered him, with Tony Gennaro, remember him? "I'm going to drop this guy with a right hand." I said, "Tony, take care of it." He liked that sort of atmosphere.
Macho.
I think of all the entertainers I know, when you walked into a room, it stopped. People like now, just like that. I said, "Here comes Frank, would sit for dinner." Boom, stopped. Ronald Reagan, the same thing,
During his long career, Don Rickles roasted Frank with razor-sharp jabs, yet always ended in pure affection.
Frank, may I say publicly to you, is the bomb of the year. It's all over, Frank. I know you don't like to hear that. It's gone. It's your whole life. Your dear, wonderful, wonderful new wife, Barbara. Barbara? The one with the diamond on her nose. I have a Jewish wife. She doesn't do that. She has so much jewelry on, she can't keep her head up. What's this, London? Jilly Rizzo, who gave me a break in Miami Beach. Guy said, "You stink," and Jilly walked over and said, "It's a man that's in charge of the Italian people. Di capo, di bandi, di bendi, pupazzi di bandi, bumandi di bendi." Dean, it's morning. Now, in honor of the Italian people, softly, everybody. Good. He enjoyed it. From Murray Franklin's to the big lights of Las Vegas. This wonderful gentleman that we honor tonight was in my corner then, he's in my corner now. We do not dance together, we do not break bread every day together. But when I'm in his company, Dean knows this and you know this. I speak of him with love, and I tell you, we have been blessed to have such a man. Good night.
In Vegas chaos, Dustin Hoffman told a famous story. Frank held up brutal beating with one simple command.
Shaggy Green made it part of his act, and he had something to do with it there. He got up and he says, "I don't want anybody saying anything." You know this story? "I don't want anybody saying anything about Frank Sinatra. I was doing a show in Miami. It was the last show, whatever, 1 in the morning. And I'm coming coming down the stairs, and 4 guys jumped me and threw me to the ground and started stomping me. And after 10 minutes, Frank Sinatra said, okay, fellas, that's enough. Frank Sinatra saved my life.
The great Ernest Borgnine knew his boundless generosity.
You know what Frank Sinatra did one time? Remember Lee J. Cobb, the actor? He was laying in a hospital with a heart attack and everything else. One day the ambulance backed up and they put Lee J. Cobb in the ambulance. Where are you taking me? He said, oh, that's all right. Don't worry about it. Well, I got to pay. No worry about it. That's taken care of. They took him out to Palm Springs and put him in the compound over there with Frank Sinatra. And Frank finally showed up and Lee J. Cobb looked at him. He said, but, sir, why? Why do you do this? He said, I like the way you act.
Gifts from the heart, never for applause. Jerry Lewis shares the secret. A surprise show in Richmond for a fallen firefighter's family. $15,000 in there, a lot of money raised. All private, all Frank.
He called me at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Meet me at the airport. We'll be on my plane. We're going to go somewhere. But bring a tux. I said, that means I'm going to work. He said, just show up, schmuck. And he'd hang up. I get to the plane. Where we going? He said, you'll see where it takes us. We'll be there. We fly from Los Angeles to Richmond, Virginia. What in Christ is in Richmond, Virginia? He said, you'll find out. And we went into the Armory. It sat 15,000 people. To 15,000 people screaming and yelling and bravo, and they all knew why we were there, for this fireman who was burned up a day before. We're coming in there and loading up that joint. They want to know how much we want. We never said a word about pay, but we gave the family $40,000. And nothing could be said about it. It was very private. And I said, Frank, do you have a problem with somebody knowing that you're a good man? He says, what the fuck kind of question is that?
Peter Fox roast gags at Frank and Stitches, begging for autographs.
That you remembered me after all these years. This is, I'm flabbergasted. I mean, I'm just flabbergasted. When I got the invitation, I was at home. You know that they come in the form of a telegram. They don't come in a regular mail. So they send you a wire. And I counted the words. 63 words. You can imagine what that cost. I don't know if you know that. Oh, here it is. I got it right here with me. This is not a night letter. This is a regular telegram. The original, my wife, she took that right away to the bank and she put that in the safety deposit box. Then it goes right up there on the wall next to the album cover, you know. So it's just that frame. Excuse me one moment, sir. Are you through with that cocktail napkin there? No, thank you very much. If you don't mind, sir, you know, I figure you do it now and you get it done, that's all. Just take it. No, sir, if you don't mind, would you put to Lieutenant Colombo, Frank Sinatra? That's all. That's good. That's good enough. You don't have to write out Lieutenant. L.T. Perry. I put L.T. already. Could you put to the missus? Lieutenant Colombo and Mrs. Colombo. And Mrs. Frank Sinatra. Good luck. You sure that's all you want? That'll be good. That's it? Yeah, that's it. All right. Could you put the missus first? The missus, Colombo, and the lieutenant. That's it. Just put two rows. Two rows, Frank Sinatra. If you could have been at the house, you wouldn't believe this. What happened there when this invitation came. You know, the family, they went crazy. One said, ask him this, and the other said, ask him that. Now, remember, this is them asking, not me. I'm out of this. You know. What they claim a few years ago when you retired was because your voice, you got a little tired. See, they claim now that when you make a record, that Jerry Bale does the singing for you. This is from my wife, Lasagna. You know, it's all fresh tomatoes, and she made the pasta herself, and I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Listen, don't bother washing out the pot because that's Teflon. You could rinse it out with water when you're done. This is very hard to ask. But you know, my wife went crazy when she got the invitation. Oh, you need a lot of nerve to ask this. I don't know. You know, my wife is watching. I don't even know if you're permitted to do this. Well, you see, in my family, we get together every month. We all sing. And, you know, I'm the worst singer, and you're the greatest singer, and they're all out there watching. Would it be possible? Not a whole song, just a... Bye-bye, Blackbird, something.
Rosie. How's that?
Yeah, just one here, just here. Pack your wares and woe, here I go, singing.
And Mel Brooks nailed his impression on Dick Cavett.
I used to do an impression a long time ago, Frank Sinatra's impression of America the Beautiful. I mean, how Frank would kind of wing it, you know. Frank Sinatra, America the Beautiful. Got it? Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesty above the tutti frutti plain. Ooh, America, America, God shed his grace on thee and sort of kind of crown like that with a big fat gang of motherhood. From C. Scooby-Doo to C. Shooby-Doo. Well, you know the tag. That's...
Ronald Reagan fired salvos, but crowned him the king.
Well, thank you, Dean. I'm pleased to be here tonight, honoring my very dear friend, Frank Sinatra. I must say that when this program was being planned, the producer hadn't decided what political figures would participate. It was a choice between me and Governor Brown, and I lost again. Frank worked for me in all my campaign. He was with me all the way to the governor's mansion. Without his help, who knows? I might have been president. It's my considered opinion that the two gentlemen who flanked me would make quite a political ticket. Frank as president, Dean as his crawling mate. Why would Frank Sinatra make a good president? Well, let's look at the facts. He has many friends, and I'm sure he'd appoint only the most qualified to his cabinet. Who better than Sammy Davis, Jr., as Secretary of Health, Education, and Jewelry? I asked him what he thought of the energy bill. He didn't hesitate a second. He said, pay it. He won't have any trouble with Congress. They'll pass all the legislation he sends over just to get his autograph. And he'll settle that canal business, too. Panama wants a canal, he'll give them Venice. You probably gathered by now, I think Frank Sinatra would make a fine president. But I don't know whether we can get him to run. Is it worth it if you have to give up being a king?
Yet music bound them deepest. Paul Anka lived the Rat Pack Vegas whirlwind and wrote My Way for Frank.
Booze, yes. When you hang out with Sinatra and Sammy Davis, it is booze. It is the girls. It is everything. You know, I mean, the first time I met those guys, I got signed by the mob who ran Vegas, and they took me to the Sands Hotel. I was the youngest kid to play Vegas. And I walked into the steam room. That's where all the action was with the Rat Pack. You did the show, and then they'd be in there. So, you know, I'd walk in, and there's Frank Sinatra in front of me nude, singing Little Things Mean a Lot, by the way. I'm glad he's not alive. There'd be a horse's head in my hotel. And that's pretty much where I learned to do what I do today as a performer and as a singer. I mean, if you want to be the best, you have to hang with the best. And I learned a long time ago that good is the enemy of great. And hanging around with those guys, you really learned your craft and how to live and what to do and style. Well, he was not only the great performer, you know, prefacing to all of that, he so was ingrained in all of our minds as with his charisma. He had great charisma. It was driven into your system back then to this was the guy. And he knew how to communicate. He knew how to get the respect of all of us in that he was a great technician in the way he sang, the way he phrased, his versatility. You could sit at home, listen on a radio, and if you played Sinatra, in the first 5 seconds, you were in a mood. And that was the magic of this guy. I mean, he made it very tough for anyone to stand in front of a band. They all came second because he was the master. And he had a great sense of being a man's man. And there were not a lot of those guys around. He was very generous. If he liked you, he was very generous. If he didn't, it was over. I mean, this guy was tough. And when he drank, get out of the city. When you were his friend, I mean, he was a friend. And if he said, come to dinner, you bring your passport, because you could be in another city that night. He just flew wherever he wanted at any time. But he loved his friends. He was very giving to his friends. And he raised billions of dollars for charity. I mean, whenever he got on some kind of a liking of something, he was a big giver. I was living in a house down in France back in the 60s, and I heard this French melody, and not unlike Rock Swings, I heard something different. And I got the rights, and I sat down and I changed it at the piano, and I just put it in my drawer. 4 months later, I was in Miami Beach playing, and Sinatra was in town. He called me and said, hey, kid, because he called me the kid. All of us had a name. We each had our own robe at the steam room, for instance. Sammy Davis was called Smokey the Bear. So he said, kid, I want to have dinner with you. So we went to dinner. He said, I'm fed up and I'm getting out of the business. And I was shocked. And at the time, he was working with a man that I introduced him to, Don Costa, who was my A&R director. And he said, I'm doing one more album and I'm out of here. So I was so moved by that. I went back to New York and I'd not written him a song. And he'd always teased me about writing for him. And I sat down at 1 a.m. and I started playing that melody. And I said, I'm going to approach it as if Sinatra were writing it. And metaphorically, and now the end is near, the final curtain, I finished it at 5 a.m. and I called him in Vegas. He was at Caesar's Palace with Don, and I said, I've got something special for the album. I flew out, played the demo. He said, kid, I like it. 4 months later, he called me from Los Angeles. I was in New York, and he put the phone up to the speaker. He said, listen to this, kid, and he played My Way for the first time. Amazing. And man, I knew my kids were going through school on that one.
Paul McCartney offered a song. Frank passed on, honest to the core.
Well, I was once rung up by the great Frank Sinatra. I was in the studio and a phone call came. He said, it's Frank Sinatra for you. Who am I? So I said, hello, Frank, you know. Oh. And he said, have you got a song? You know, he said, I've heard about you. And I said, I've got just the song, Frank. Won't be, I'll send it over. Because I'd secretly, you know, as a songwriter, you hope he'll ask you one day. So I had one ready. Well, he turned it down.
Did he say why?
I think it was something to do with the fact it was called Suicide. I don't think it was, like, just catchy. No, I thought it was quite good, you know. I wrote it when I was quite young. This was kind of cabaret, Sinatra, boo, dip. And,
he could have used it. He could have said, suicide, I did it my way.
Sammy Davis Jr. defended Frank's honor amid tax scandals.
Do you know where your friend Frank Sinatra is?
No, I do not. The last I heard, he was in London.
He was subpoenaed, is that right?
I don't know if he was subpoenaed or not. I do know that there was a subpoena out. I don't know if they ever caught him in terms of... No, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it's a snide remark. I mean, I don't know whether they caught him in California or who they served Mickey Rudin. I don't know. Yeah. I do know that I don't think that whatever the circumstances are, that he ran out on a subpoena. I don't believe that, because I know the man, and that's what they're trying to infer, that he ran away from it. I don't think he'd do that. No. He'd walk in 17 strong, you know. What do you want? You know, but I don't think he'd run out, man. He has never run in his life. So why would he run for this, you know? It's uncomfortable when you get to be that big that people take a posture. I saw a headline the other day, Sinatra can't be found, big like this in the paper. And in the inside article, it was only that much about them trying to, and the rest was about the committee. I went to the committee. I got 2 pages in the comic section, you know. That's what I got, you know, but I don't know. I do know that Frank's business interests are all over. I know he desperately wants to do The Littlest Prince, and the deal did fall through at one point. Frank wants to come back into films. So I think that he probably went to London to talk to Fred Love, about trying to reorganize the deal. I don't know. Yeah. He's a nice man. Yeah. He is probably one of the most honest individuals I've ever met in my life, and I honor his friendship and what he did for me as a performer, and as a person too, because he put my head straight in a lot of areas.
And a young Larry King got a shock visit. Just Frank repaying a doctor's favor.
Frank was great to me near the end of his life, and I did his last television interview. I love Frank. I'd never met Frank. This goes back to 1963, 64. Gleason was my mentor. Jackie would come on my shows. He was terrific to me, and we were at his house one night, and he was talking about things that are impossible. And he said to me, "What's impossible in your profession?" I said, "Well, I do a talk show on local radio every night from 9 to 12. What's impossible is Frank Sinatra to sit down on my talk show for 3 hours." Gleason said, "Is he in town?" I said, "Yeah, he's in town at the Fontainebleau this week and next week." And he goes, "What night is he off?" I said, "Next Monday." He says, "You got him." The station calls me in, the management. "We're taking an ad in the Miami Herald, full-page ad, Frank Sinatra, Monday night. We've called the Fontainebleau. We left messages. He doesn't call us." Uh-oh. Now, it's Monday night, 9 o'clock. Nobody from the radio station went home. They all stayed, the secretaries, the salesman. And it's a minute to 9, and a limo pulls up. And out comes Frank. And he comes walking up the stairs, and he goes, "Which one's Larry King?" Me? He says, "Okay, let's go." We walk in, sit down, the light goes on, and I never bloated myself up on the radio. I never made it bigger than it was, and I never lied to the audience. So instead of giving some big introduction, I said, "My guest is Frank Sinatra. Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, 5 years ago, I was working at Ben Maxick's Town and Country Club in New York. I was sick Saturday night. I had laryngitis, couldn't sing, called Jackie Gleason. I said, 'Will you come and do a show?' And he came and did the show. At the end of the show, I walked him out to his car. I leaned in. I said, 'Jackie, I owe you one.' Now I'm here at the Fontainebleau. I get a message to call Jackie. I call him up. I said, 'Jackie, it's Frank.' And he said, 'Frank, this is the one.'"
Frank Sinatra taught us friendship isn't fame or flash. It's standing in the storm, laughing through the pain, giving without tally, loyalty that echoes forever. In a world of takers, be the giver. That's the Frank Sinatra way. If these stories moved you, drop a comment. Who's your Frank Sinatra? Like and subscribe for more incredible Hollywood legends. And stay tuned for what's next. Thanks for watching.